see clearly why Joe won the pitch, can't you? Yeah, so we've seen that there's self-care is important, but probably the biggest impact is what we do in business and how we do it. And when we get that right, then our well-being is going to be all the better for it. So thank you, Joe. And without further ado, then I'd like to bring up our wonderful panel, hosted by Kathy Graham of KG Strategies. And up you come. So we've got Paolina, Joe, Stephanie, Orla and Louise. Is it okay if they sit on the sofa? It's going to be a bit hard to see them, but I think they'd like to be comfortable.
Right, I am just going to ask each of the ladies to introduce themselves and just what their business is. So Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie McKittrick and I am a network marketer, and guess what, I'm not going to recruit you. My company is Isogenics, which specialises in nutritional cleansing systems.
Hi, I'm Paolina Hawthorn and I am a Managing Director of Diversity NI, and we do interpreting, translation and training.
Hello, I'm Jo Rourke and I do content strategy and copywriting for female entrepreneurs.
I am Orla McKeating and I'm co-owner of Bowden Park Coffee Company and Roastery.
And I'm Louise Brogan and my business is Social BNI, and I help entrepreneurs with their online marketing.
So I'm sure there's a little bit of something for everybody there. Louise, I am going to ask you the first question because you've had quite a varied and interesting career. And you started off with a bit of a corporate career, but after kind of feeling blocked and career progression was no longer an option, that's whenever you first made the move into becoming an entrepreneur. So would you like to tell us a bit about why you made that decision rather than trying to find another job in another large organisation?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so after backpacking around the world for a few years, make a very long story short, I was a software engineer for BT for 2 years, then I was a project manager in the health service for 11 years, and when I had my first daughter I went part-time, and I was part-time in the health service I think for about 7 years. And anyone's ever worked in public sector, there's bandings, and I was a band 7 for 3 years and 11 months. And they reorganised the department because after 4 years in the public sector, any position you're in becomes permanent. So I was dropped from a band 7, which is quite a good salary, to a band 6 where I had started 11 years previously. And people were leapfrogging past me who were full-time, who didn't have the experience, the knowledge or the capability that I had. And I was angry, basically. And but when I had my first child, because I'm not the kind of person I sit and, not that being on maternity leave means you're doing nothing, but I don't like to sit still, so I started a website selling craft supplies. I opened a craft shop on my 3rd maternity leave when my son was 3 months old, while being a part-time manager in the NHS. And in that shop, 2 years down the road with that shop, somebody came to me and pointed out that I wasn't making any money at it. It's a really long, complicated story. But anyway, so she said, but you're really good at doing social media. And this was about 5-6 years ago when people weren't really doing Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. So she says, why don't you help other business owners with their social media? So I literally closed the shop about a month later, after 2.5 years, whilst in the health service. Worked for 2 years and saved everything that I earned in Social B and didn't spend any of it. And one day, having a very, very tough time at work, with this drop in my salary down to band 6, I rang my husband and said about some meeting I was having with social workers, and he just said, get your coat and get out of there. And I handed in my notice. So I left and I started doing this. I say full time. I work while my kids are at school. So I have 3 kids who are 12, 10 and 8. And I've built the business up, and it's changed so many times since I started. Now I run workshops, I train people online, and I train one-to-one. And I'm now I'm Facebook's one of 20 Facebook and Instagram accredited trainers for the whole of the UK. and the only one in Northern Ireland. And I got to Downing Street last year. And I mean, if you are thinking, if you don't have your business yet and you're thinking, should I go for it? You've only got one life. And in the talk that we were having earlier with Jo, I thought she's brilliant, that's so inspiring. And I'm wondering about my emotional intelligence, because I'm the kind of person where I just think, do you know what? Why not me? Why shouldn't it be me? And I think everyone needs a wee bit of that in them. So it's a very complicated, long story. But yes, I wanted to have my own business because I was fed up being pushed around and having someone else in charge of my life.
Thanks, Louise. And personally, I think that's really refreshing. Why not me? Why shouldn't it be any one of us in this room that becomes, you know, the next multi-millionaire of Northern Ireland, or the next one to, you know, come up with a life-changing innovation for, you know, 20% of the population? Why not? Why not any one of you, any one of us? So I think that's really inspiring and so refreshing to hear. And a bit like you, I left a corporate career after about 20 years. I know I don't look it, but you can save that for later. But I played it kind of safe, set up my own business in kind of doing what I was already doing, except cutting out, as Jo would say, the toxicity and doing what I wanted to do. But Orla, you left a career and did something very, very different. So you've had a massive departure from your previous career, and I'm really interested to know what were the lessons that you could bring from this different type of career into this new business.
So I have a language degree from Queen's University. When I finished Queen's, I was didn't know what to do with my life, but knew that I did not want to be in Belfast because it was so not cool. I wanted to travel and do something totally different. So I went to Belgium for 3 months with a Frenchman and stayed for 10 years. I worked in aviation in the corporate world for 4 years, and it really bored me. The money was amazing. So for the first year, it was great. And then after that, it was just, I didn't get any happiness from it, and there was no passion for me in it at all. So I decided that I wanted to work in fashion. I love fashion. I loved fashion people. I did a hair and makeup course while I was working actually in aviation, and then just left. And of course, everyone was like, oh my God, why are you doing this? This is crazy. This is not going to work. You know what? I was 2 hours on the train from Paris, and I just wanted to party with cool people, and I did it, and it was amazing. And I worked for free for a year as an assistant, and then I got an agent. And up to about 6 months ago, I've always been like, yeah, I was so lucky, because like I spoke English, but in hindsight, I worked really hard. I put in the hours. I went to photo shoots not knowing any French at all, and a lot of people in fashion aren't very nice, so I was just barked at and treated not very nicely. But I just poured on and did it, and it was fab, and got quite far. Met a few celebrities. It was awesome, got loads of free champagne. And then I was in a relationship which was fairly toxic. That's for another panel altogether. And then I got pregnant. So I think my family at home could see that there was something not right, and they shipped me home for 3 weeks. So I packed a suitcase, 7 months pregnant, came home, had the baby, and kind of was back in Belfast. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want the baby, which sounds so awful, but I just wasn't in a good place. My friends were still partying. They were moving on with their careers. I had no career. I wanted to work in fashion. I wanted to be in Paris, and I didn't want to be here. So I thought, right, my dad wanted to invest in a business, and I've always loved coffee, and I always worked in hospitality in Belgium. And we thought, you know what, let's do this. Let's work in coffee, and let's open a coffee shop. I had spent my maternity leave walking around the streets of Belfast, so bored. I'm not throwing a pity party, by the way. This is just my backstory. Don't want anybody. And kind of just wanted somewhere to go where I could sit and maybe have one drink and sit for 2 hours and chill, and no one would look at me if my baby cried, and that was fine, and talk to the staff and interact with people. And I thought I'd just create it because I couldn't find it in Belfast at the time. So we found a free retail unit on the Orma Bakery, at the Orma Bakery, and we moved it forward pretty quickly, and I was so excited, and I was so happy to be back in work, and I was with adults, and this was great, and Elliot, my son, was in childcare. I didn't need to spend time with him. It was awesome. I love him so much, and he's the best. But I just needed to work. I needed to move forward, and I needed to be passionate about something again. So we're in our 5th year of trading, and it's going well. It's going really good. I have quite a small team. And so about a year ago, we wanted to expand, but we weren't really sure. I suppose like the normal next step would be open another coffee shop, start something massive, but we kind of wanted to go down the ethical route. So we looked into coffee roasting, which is where you import green beans from whatever different country you fancy, and then roasting them yourself. That way we would learn loads about our product, about where we get our product, about the farmers, about how they work, about what they do, and we could educate our staff and our customers as well on that. So we did that. And we started that in the shop quite low-key at the start, and we were always with Bailey's, who are also amazing, and I just knew my customer who was regular enough to tell me if they hated the coffee. So I kind of tricked them, gave them the new one. It went down really well, and now so we're using the coffee all the time. It's great with 4 different coffees, but anyway, there's info on that at the back. So for me, I feel like I need to give back now. I need to use my position to give back. So my goal and my vision is to buy a plantation, a coffee plantation, and it's going to be all female coffee producers, where I'm a single parent. I'm extremely privileged to have ended up where I am, and I feel like I need to give back to maybe females who have found themselves in a position and they don't have the support that I was so lucky to have. So that's my plan, and it's actually moving quickly. Thank you. So, yeah, and it's going to be in Costa Rica, so if anyone wants a job in Costa Rica, come to me. So that's where I am. So what I brought from what I did before is probably, you can't be what you can't see. So I was in this job that I hated, and it was so boring, and all I wanted to do was go on the set with celebrities, and I did it, and it was awesome. And now I just feel like I have this vision, and I know I can do it now, whereas before there was all the self-doubt, and which I suffer from every day anyway. I just know I can do it. Why not? Like, why should you not be able to? So there you go.
Thank you. I think that it's so wonderful, as you say, that you're now, what you feel is in a privileged position, but you've worked really damn hard for, but that you want to go and support other women worldwide. I think that's pretty amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I know that whole issue of self-doubt. I know I was in business my first 6 months, and I was at an all-women's event and going, oh, I can't do this. I was very fortunate. I had a redundancy package, but I was like, this redundancy, it's not going to last forever, and the money's just not coming in. I'm gonna, packing it in, gonna go out there and get another job. And I was told, what? How long have you been in business? I went 6 months. And do you know what the reaction I got was? It was just hysterical laughter. Nobody makes any money in the first 6 months. You've got to stick at it. You're doing all the right things. And I think that that's the key. Even in your career, you said about how you plugged on and kept working. So you just really do. It's challenging, but you just have to keep at it. And Louise, it goes back to your point, you only live once, so go for it. And I think, Paolina, you really have gone for it. You've made 2 very courageous moves. First of all, coming here at the age of 25, and just 3 short years later, starting up your own business here. But how long did you feel that you'd made the right decision and that this business was the right thing for Northern Ireland and you were on the right road?
Hello, thank you. Pretty quickly, like everything's with me, actually, it happens that way. Yeah, I mean, when I moved, actually, the first courageous move that I made, I'm from Bulgaria, by the way. In Bulgaria, you live with your parents until you die, nearly. First, you live with your parents until you meet the man of your dreams, and then you live with the man's parents. So I just thought that, you know what, that's actually not for me. So I moved out from home, and my parents didn't speak to me for 6 months. So they decided to come and speak to me, and I said, by the way, it seems like a seamless transition. I decided to move to Northern Ireland. And they continue speaking, by the way, they never stopped after that. I came to Northern Ireland, and I met my husband after that. And when I was 28, I said to him, Chris, I have a great idea. I can actually see it. It's all happening to me. It's all so clear. And he said, oh, Polly, we can't keep that house tidy. How are you going to run a business? And I said, well, Chris, I'm going to run it from the spare room. This is how I'm going to run it. It's from the spare room. We actually have a room in this small house to run it from. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to be doing interpreting and translating and training. Now, training and education has always been something that appealed to me, and I always had a big passion for training. So when I woke up with that name, Diversity NI, it was like a love story. I just loved the name Diversity NI. I run it from the back, you know, from that spare room, and it was a wee bit like a Fawlty Towers at the beginning, you know, it's like that big name or that, you know, whole thing, but it doesn't matter, just thinking things will happen, things will happen. So the first, we put together a training, we did a training center and all the rest of it. And the first training that we run for interpreters started at level 3 at the time. That was 8 years ago. We actually had a fully booked course of 15 people. This is when I knew I was onto something good. I was in the right track. It was very much the timing of when I was starting the business, and it was very niche, and I had the expertise for it and the education behind it to back it up. So yes, this is when I actually knew I was onto something good, and I never stopped after. Yeah. Now we have 8 people in the office, 40 full-time interpreters, I registered 500 interpreters, so it's going well. Yeah.
You know, you are very, very passionate. You're passionate about making change. So I suppose I'd like to know a little bit more about maybe, do you have moments of darkness, and what keeps you going during this? Because I think we all get that. Not just the self-doubt, there's real darkness at times whenever you're in business.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there are times in your business that are challenging, and that can be very difficult, especially when you're working with people. That could present a lot of challenges, and it's all about how you present that to yourself and the conversations sometimes that you have with yourselves. And Joe mentioned something about your limbic system, and I mean, I'm so happy that she actually noticed that there was a book that actually made a big difference for me. That was Steve Peters' The Chimp Paradox, which I highly recommend, because that suddenly makes all made sense in terms of why we're acting in the way that we're acting. So I think the conversations that I went through the journey of winning contracts, losing contracts, winning another contract, all those things, when you have to employ more people, when you have to, unemploy more people, we all, through that journey, unfortunately, there are moments of self-doubt, if I'm gonna make it and everything. But one thing that is very important for me is to take the challenge and use it as an opportunity, and just say, okay, what is the best I can do in that situation? And we can always do only your best. So that's what I will do, yeah.
Thank you. I think that those are words that we should all hold on to, as long as you're doing your best in a challenging situation. And Stephanie, you certainly have had your own challenges, which you are very open about, and very generous with your sharing in those, and how you manage them. But you are really very driven, but how do you make sure that you're looking after yourself whilst also developing and building your business to be the success that it is?
So for anybody that doesn't know me, in case you're not on Facebook and you're not really alive, My whole my whole backstory in a very, very short way is, I had my first child and I was pregnant with my second child and I fell ill one day. And long story short, she was also diagnosed with a condition and I basically died to get her to full term. And Sally then, she passed away at 25 hours old. And that then, 6 weeks later, I had my first big brain surgery and I've now just had my 10th 3 weeks ago. And, we talk about, we talk about support networks. The reality is I didn't have a support network. My partner left me because he thought that he was having a hard time. And, poor him. So I was left on my own with an 18-month-old baby. I was dying and I didn't know anything about the benefits. I was told I would never work. I needed to do something to make money because you cannot live in fresh air. So I was in this place probably of complete desperation of where I was living with my health. I had to crawl around. And I went to study forensic science, went to Queen's, started studying law. I did everything to avoid sort of businesses. And this woman, as everybody has probably been hounded by a network marketer at some point, I had been hounded and I eventually then gave up at a place of complete desperation. And I went into the business and I built that business from a hospital bed, and I don't have a big family. I didn't have, when you have a lot of personal problems, especially tragedies, you find a friend stop knocking on your door. Nobody's coming to help you because they don't know what to say. So I was on my own. I had no choice but to make it happen. So I just got so hard to create. I had basically imprisoned myself because I was then working 16 hours a day because I was doing conference calls in Australia and Canada and different time zones, and everything was even taking its toll on my health because I wasn't looking after myself. I was missing breakfast, I was living on coffee, I was having dinners out here, and you were doing all the things that you should not be doing, especially when a lot of people, when they're making their own business, you're wanting to create a freedom or a certain lifestyle and you're doing it for the vision of your family or whatever else. But you really, really need to learn to look after yourself. So it was basically, I had hit this high point, and I was about to really crash and burn. I was getting very, very ill again, very critically ill again. And I had then been approached by this other company that I'd already heard about, and the products aligned with me, and I moved into it. But it was then from that I learned from my first experience. So I learned then going into the next business, right, okay, I'm going to diarise this, I'm going to map out my whole success. So it wasn't luck, it wasn't a mistake, it was planned. Do you know what I mean? I planned it on both occasions. I mapped out the success, I set the goals, but along the way I thought, who can help me with this, who can help me with that, delegate bits, schedule in things like family time, date nights, holidays, when the school, because they are your priority, and it is so important for you to have that headspace that you're not constantly wired into your business, because it becomes so stressful, especially if you are having that success. It's very exciting, it's very addictive, you want to work more because you want to do some more, but you have to take a step back because you can only go so far. And it's when you do and you learn to sort of let go and trust other people with bits of your baby, an arm and a leg here, that you can really enjoy it more. I think I have a lot much more freedom now. I'm not the stressed out maniac that I was before, trying to sell everybody stuff.
And Stephanie, you mentioned before about you didn't have a lot of support, you didn't have that support network, and as you got ill, it kind of dwindled rather than, whenever you needed it more. What's your support network like now?
See, to be honest, I think for a lot of the time, people avoided me a lot because they didn't want, especially if you have a dead baby, we'll say those words because it's not a stigma. If you have a dead baby, people really do avoid you because they don't know what to say. And that's where I was. A lot of people disappeared, and then because I was always like either passing out or throwing up or like hanging on to a wall somewhere to stand up, people just generally avoid you when you look like that. So support network for me now, basically, the whole business network and the likes of Lean In and the other groups that I've not mentioned, but just, that you get to. There are. Disclaimer.
This has been a whole new experience for me because previously I was completely alone, and because I was really the only female in Northern Ireland that was stepping up in network marketing to do it at a professional level, I was completely alone. And if I tried to move into any kind of business arenas, immediately I was shut down because I was coming from a profession that they didn't agree with, or they thought I was just mucking around selling stuff in the back of the sofa. So, you know, for me now, this whole networking thing has been really, really good for me. I've made a lot of friends, a lot of great contacts, and it has just sort of opened up my whole eyes to the whole different world of amazing women that there are, that are overcoming so much and doing so many just amazing things. You know, it's really just a great place to be. So yeah, everybody needs to network more.
And you did mention that, you know, that you went into this because, you know, finance, you need to put food on the table. And I think that, and I think all of the panel have touched on the fact that, you know, we go into this because it's maybe something that we ethically are drawn to, but at the end of the day, we do want to be making money from this, and starting up your own business is a risk. It's really, really frightening. And throw that into the mix of trying to balance a family life. Jo, I want to turn to you now because your website is really, really engaging. There's loads of energy in it, but how do you maintain that energy whenever you're also balancing a husband and 3 kids and general family life?
Drugs? No. No at all. Do you know what the best thing for me was? I abandoned the idea of work-life balance. I think it's actually really unhealthy. It's a really unhealthy concept for entrepreneurs because if you're an entrepreneur, you are your business. You know, I would sort of cast around the room. We're all doing what we do because we love it, but we also love our kids, our husband, our families, our friends. So if you take one element of that away, you're not you. So having a balance it becomes, well, for me anyway, it became something else to be stressed about. You know, I think we all have an amazing advantage in that we love what we do. So that helps me keep the energy. Also too, I'm just annoying and I just have a lot of energy. And one other thing that really helped me was being okay with the fact that I go in cycles. That some days I'm like, you know, all about the crafts, and we've baked cakes by 8:30 a.m. and I'm Superman. And other days I am okay. I can't talk to you now. I really need to send this email. Please go outside and play with your brother. Okay, your sister's eating a slug. It's just those, and that's okay. Sometimes in the year I'll be on it and everything is just click, click, click. And on other times I just want to chill out and be with the kids. And other times I just want to be on my own. And that's okay too. Just being on your own is fine. I call it my only child time. But I like it, and so do most people. And I think just admitting that you need to have time to yourself is pretty healthy. So that would be my answer.
I absolutely couldn't agree more. And if I'm a bit cranky, it's because I didn't get for my run this morning because I couldn't manage to balance my husband. But anyway, and I don't mean that rudely. He's inside, I would like for you all just to give, in like a very short sentence, one piece of advice to the ladies in the room.
Well, probably everybody has heard of know your why. What I would say is find your fire. So find the one reason that your business or your career is going to absolutely change your life, and then find that fire that's going to click inside you, and then go start running and don't stop.
Yeah, one word that I would use, and probably if you got me down in the middle, and that's something that have seen me through, that's resilience. So build up your resilience, you need it, yeah.
My one thing would be, don't be embarrassed about wanting to earn money. You know, that's why you got into business, and there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with that. Earning money is smart.
I would say know your support network. There is probably a few people in this, there definitely is a lot of people in this room where I know if I'm having an issue with someone, I can email and be like, can I just phone, can I meet you for coffee, can you send me an email, I just need support. Whereas for the same problem, I'm not going to phone my mum because she'd have me like locked up in hospital. So just kind of know that you can reach out, people are there, people care, certainly lean in. I mean, if anyone's having a mare, I'm always up for going for a porn star martini, so know your network.
Mine's quite similar actually to yours. It's about community support. A rising tide lifts all boats, so let's all help each other. If there's an opportunity to share somebody else's business when you're in a conversation, then share. You know, let's all help each other.
Wow, thank you. I feel really proud. I feel like a proud mummy at this moment. Because this for me is what the whole lean in thing has been about, and it's helped me through the darkest of times and through the best of times as well. So I want to say thank you to all the amazing speakers tonight that have inspired and shared and made us laugh and just been amazing tonight. So a last round of applause for everybody that's... And I want to say thank you to our wonderful committee and Ritu, and I feel like I'm missing some of the Kathy. It's because you're not in my eye line. We've learned that. Sorry, Kathy. Yeah, she doesn't really do anything. I lie. So thank you to all of you for making tonight happen, because we've done it for free. We've pulled it off. We made it happen. Woohoo!